Right now we are starting the first part of the agenda, which is called the vision, of course, after keynotes. And this is the first part of Life Science for European Union Conference 2025 in Kraków. And this session is dedicated to exploring the future of European life science sector. So what's next? Now we will invite you for the first discussion panel of the day. As you can see, the chairs are ready, and I think that our speakers are also ready, and we will take a closer look at how stakeholders across Europe, of course, can work together for the future of health. And the moderator of this discussion is and will be Andrzej Ryś, former director for Health System, Medical Products and Innovation, and former principal scientific advisor at the European Commission's DG Health and Food Safety. Please welcome Mr. Andrzej Ryś. And right now, I would like to also welcome the panelists. Once again, we will have the opportunity to meet Irene and Norstedt. So please join us on stage and welcome once again with a round of applause. Together with us also, Adam Jarubas, a member of European Parliament and chair of the European Committee on Public Health. We are looking for you. Thank you. Good morning. Nathalie Moll, Director General of European Federation of Pharmaceutical Industries and Association. Good morning, Nathalie. Thank you for being with us. Dana Burduja, Head of Life Science and Health Division of European Investment Bank. Good morning. I have practicing this for whole morning. Jakub Ravn, I hope that the pronunciation is quite well. So, Head of Innovation, Aalborg University Hospital, and especially the Innovation Clinic, Jakub Ravn, and from Poland and Kraków as well, Krzysztof Pyrć, President of Foundation of Polish Science. So, these are our panelists. Have a great discussion, and the stage is yours, Andrzej. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and very much welcome, all of you. It's setting up this panel. We really wanted to bring all the stakeholders or vision on the EU level. So we have kind of almost small Brussels here, but also Luxembourg. We have European institutions all represented, Parliament, Commission, European Investment Bank. We also invited, as you can see, Nathalie, who is representing EFPIA and in the pharma industry side, and also welcome the representative of the next presidency. Danish presidency is already prepared for the taking over from Poland, and Krzysztof, who is representing science community and researchers. So I'm very happy to help with these discussions. We have 45 minutes. It's like a half. Match about the European life science strategy. We're supposed to set up the vision and kind of feel inspire you and also maybe also Irene's team to work even with better vision of the future life science strategy for the EU. Adam, you are the first chair of the first. Health Committee in the history of European Parliament. It was a very interesting exercise. I first congratulate, and also I'm proud that we have the Polish MP who is the first chair of this important committee. I'm saying this as the one who spent 19 years in Brussels in health policy making, and I think it's also showing that after post-COVID era, the health is still important topic. And you have number of I'm sure that you started just a few months ago, and maybe you can tell us if you see this development, but also in health there are so many competitive ideas, what to do in Parliament, in your committee. Can you just pick up one issue which can kind of bridge the health and health sciences, because we are discussing today about the bridging sector. Irene told us, how life science is broad, and what is your kind of pickup of this, please? I think you have the mic somewhere.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for inviting me to Kraków. I agree. Kraków is the best place for organizing such conference due to life science sector is crucial. It's one of smart specialization in Małopolska development region's strategy. And it's the most beautiful, not only because it's part of my constituency, I'm from here, but let me focus on one thing. Yesterday, coordinators of our health committee decided about our working program for a whole term. And we are working on a new strategy. We started in 2021 with onco strategy, cardiovascular, neurodegenerative strategy, mental health. But if you allow me, I want to ask, I want to focus on health workforce crisis, because it's both the problem for health sector, but I think also for life science research, and it will continue to grow and requires coordinated action across the EU. Hence, the first own initiative of our newly established committee is the report titled Sustainable Healthcare Systems and EU Health Workforce Crisis Plan, and we will work on that with committee employment. Parliament recognizes the seriousness of the health workforce crisis in the EU in the broad sense of the word. This is evidenced by recent plenary debate with presence of Vice President Roxana Minzato, Commissioner for Employment, and also Ursula von der Leyen, President of the Commission, in her 2023 State of the Union, drew attention to the record millions of vacancies in the EU, economic losses, and unfulfilled services. In healthcare, it is often literally a matter of life and death. According to the OECD, there is a shortage, 1.2 million workers in the EU workforce, health care sector. The WHO indicates that 40% of doctors will retire in the next 5 years. The COVID pandemic has put older workers particularly at risk. The successive waves of the pandemic have overloaded, traumatized, burnt out professionals, increasing the number of early retirements of or people leaving the profession. For example, in oncology, 77 work overtime, more than half complain about overload bureaucracy. So we know we must safely use digitalization, artificial intelligence, broader support, increasing efficiently. We need more. We need to educate more medical personnel, doctors, both in terms of studies and further specialization. Coordination is needed in the EU to ensure that solving problem in one member state doesn't worsen the situation in the others. I served as a marshal of one of the Polish region for 12 years, and I want to underline the role of local and regional authorities. So I think we must listen to their voices in the discussion of the composition of health sectors. And Committee of the Region also work on that issue. I would like to end with a remark. We have been talking for a long time about critical resources in the European Union, and certainly we should say that health workforce is such crucial critical resources.
Thank you very much, and I think we have seen this also on the call for evidence. You know, the mentioned by Irene, there's also the work on this, for also even the work for talents globally, and call from our president last week in Paris, come back to Europe, join back. And I think we need to, when I heard Pavel, cold shower about the different things concerning development, I think the human resources for sure is other critical factor. Irene, you mentioned the whole kind of cuisine to prepare this strategy. One area just focusing on health is the cooperation between different sectors, pharma, biotech, biopharmas. I think most probably Nathalie will tell us also the concept, but also we have the digital development on AI, on this, so we have medtech industry, which is important. We have healthcare. How you are going to connect those? Do you have an idea so far? Can you give us a little bit light on what's happening now in your team?
Yes, so I could spend an hour on this probably. A lot of reflections going in, and I think that indeed it's complex, but I think we can focus on kind of three main areas that really needs to be looked at and worked at. And one is, of course, to make sure we have the complete research and innovation ecosystems. That relates to the competencies and the resources, and how we also foster collaboration between these different actors to make sure that we really have the full ecosystems. I think that we have one area in Europe that we have come very far on that, and that is in rare diseases, where we have worked in partnership with all the different actors. So we have the patients, we have the scientists, we have the research infrastructures, we have the European reference networks, and now we also have industry working together. So I think that this is one of the areas we have come the furthest on in terms of that area. But I would like to focus on competences, resources, and to bring all the actors. Then, of course, we have the issues about the regulatory system, etc. We know there are challenges on that one. There may be challenges with the regulatory, but some of the key challenges are also on the interpretation of the member states. There needs to be a lot more work in terms of the harmonization, because also we need to remember that health is one of the areas where we do not yet have a single market in Europe, and that is really holding us back. And we do know that the member states are very hesitant in actually, coming forward to make sure that we do have a single market. So that is one, because we do know that according to the treaty as well, the implementation of healthcare is a member state's responsibility. And that is something that we really need to look at and see how we can do much, much better collaboration in that area. Then there is one area that we have sort of alluded to but not come into, and that is really we need to have a lot more dialogues with the citizens, because we need to have a much better understanding of citizens, what science actually brings for your everyday life, and also better discuss, the opportunities and the risks of new scientific discoveries to take away a lot of myths. We see a lot of fears in certain areas, etc., and we see what's going on in the US. We have the anti-vaccine, etc., and I think that we need to do a much better job in terms of, really discussion with citizens about science and what it actually brings, to also have a preparedness and also to have a much stronger pull kind of sense from citizens for innovations, so that you can work from both sides. Normally we work from what we call the technology push side, but we need to also come from the other side and much more societal pull side for new innovations, because we know that it's going to help and support people's daily life.
Thank you very much. Now let's move to money source. Dana, you're running this life science part in the European Investment Bank, and it started some years ago, and you had, I think, number of already successes and experiences. But what is your kind of support for the de-risking instruments in this? I think in CEO of the Paweł Przywiązkowski, he was quite critical. He didn't mention, I think, the bank, as I
But he did
understand.
mention
They also
other
have the
interesting
contract with
things,
you,
yeah.
as I remember from Polish media. But you know, what is your role? Because I'm sure that in the strategy, I don't know yet, but we will see this beginning of July. EIB will be on the plate.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation and for acknowledging us as part of the ecosystem here, and to the organizers and everyone else. Just to clarify, first, I think EIB in life sciences and health does a lot of things that are not necessarily seen, as we are the EIB group, and we have also our colleagues at the European Investment Fund that have also life sciences focus. We have the EIC initiative of the Commission that has a life sciences focus. So we're covering the entire range of what we call projects in the life sciences space. And I mean, as a parenthesis here, we supported, I think that hospital that was on screen, it's also supported with the EIB financing. And in Poland, I hope some of you are in the room, we supported with the EIB specific life sciences instrument, like the venture debt, at least 10 companies from Poland in the life sciences space with the more or less 200 million of investment. So if someone is in the room, and I'm really happy to be here with you. But coming back to the question of blended finance, this is something that it's particularly specific to the EIB part of the group that is working in the life sciences space, and this blended finance has two dimensions. First, it's to blend in order to de-risk. That's why we blend it. And first, it's that we work alongside the Commission to implement certain policy priorities. And in this respect, we get guarantees from the Commission for the money we invest in life sciences companies. And I think the most popular things that you can think of are InvestEU. It used to be FC, we had EGFF, IDFF, a lot of the programs that give the policy focus of the Commission, and we do the analysis and the support, in the end, financial support of the companies to bring the innovation to commercial stage. This way we can absorb the early stage risk, and alongside this blending with the public sources of funds, we also crowd in other private capital investment, because I think I've heard it mentioned it already not only one time today that, and we fully agree based on the specialist analysis that we do with our colleagues in the life sciences, that China is like filling the gap where the US is going a bit down. So that's why we want also to be able to attract this type of capital into the companies going into the commercial stage. We also offer technical assistance and advisory to this in life sciences companies, and that is something that can help navigate regulatory pathways, structure the business model, and this is something that it's highly appreciated by the companies, as we come from a portfolio of probably more than 100 companies working in the area of life sciences in the last 5 years. So we can already help them navigate towards the commercial stage. I think it's also important to highlight that we can also do specific capture funds. So we partner with private industry to put together money to capture funds for a specific area in life sciences. And we have a few of these transactions. So these are just a few examples. I could talk for hours. It's not the case, but I'm more than happy to continue to exchange. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think there will be more opportunity during the coffee breaks, lunches to exchange. Nathalie, I think we got already the quite critical and interesting presentation by Paweł, and I had seen you made some notes and photo of the slides. Nevertheless, from the industry perspective, this integrated approach of the EU, which we are trying to build in at least from our end of the Commission, European institutions, give enough clarity and initiatives to make long-term R&D and manufacturing investment in Europe. So this is, of course, we discussed China, US, Japan already. And how do you see the LifeScience strategy in relations to the private sector? Because, of course, I'm sure that you also provide a number of input to the evidence call.
Thanks so much, Andrzej, and it's really great to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I've never been to Krakow. It is incredibly beautiful. So, and I didn't realize what a vibrant life science sector it has as well. And it's great to be back on the life science strategy. Like Irene said, the last one was 2002. We were both there at the time working on that. And life science has changed exponentially since then, right? So I think the integrated approach that you were asking about, Andrzej, is the only way for us. And Europe has both its strength and its weakness to be 27, right? And so it means that compared to the US or China, who are individual countries, decisions take longer, it's more complicated, you have to align, yes, but we also have an incredible resource base of expertise, and we saw that just in Poland with that slide of SMEs. That was overwhelming for me to see that. So I think integrated approach is the only way. It always has been the only way, but right now with that geopolitical context, everything has to be focusing on increasing competitiveness just to stay afloat and to make the most of that green dot on that slide and move it up next to luxury goods. I would much prefer having biotech up there. And that means more Europe, and you saw clinical trials is really so incredibly important to go from that research idea that you were talking about, Irene, which we're so great at, and not getting other parts of the world stealing it from us because we can't get through the clinical trials fast enough. So I think in that area, if we can do something fast this year already to give that signal, because I'm trying to be politically correct, but the latest announcements, the only good side of the latest announcements coming from other parts of the world is that they light a fire under us to do things quickly and really well. And I think on the clinical trials, we need to, we need to make sure that multi-country clinical trials, and the slide had it all, so I don't have to say anything more than that, but I think prioritize that really very seriously, and then get this pharma legislation done with the same idea, because it's a revision of something that's 20 years old. We are too slow, the technology is completely different, so we need to be the best regulatory system in the world for today, but also for the next 20 years. So that pharma legislation has to work for all the scientific developments of the next 20 years, which is going to be really hard. But the Commission had some great proposals in the regulatory improvements. So let's get that done. Let's be at the forefront of fighting antimicrobial resistance. There's a proposal in there for that. We would be the only region doing that. That would attract a lot of attention and a lot of science and would save patients. So let's focus on that. Let's get the incentive framework right, and then what can the life science strategy do on top of that? It can work on implementation, and it can pick up anything that isn't legislation. But we also have two other super important pieces of legislation. The HTA regulation, which should have been more Europe. So can we make it more Europe? Can we make it one decision once so that we can go faster? And then the EHDS. God, we have to implement that quickly. So I think more integration, but more speed. And how do you do that? I really think consultation is super important. I don't know how many of the 784 replies to the consultation were from industry. I hope they were. In 2002, we used to work really well in that way, very integrated. There was a lot of dialogue. Is this going to work for you, industry, small companies, big companies, medium companies? before you write things, because afterwards it's really hard and slow to get things done. So let's not be afraid of interacting with all the stakeholders who have a stake. And it doesn't mean society should not be involved, they should, but remember who needs to implement the things that are being decided. So when it's the HTA, it's the payers. When it's the pharma legislation, it's the industry. When it's the HDS, it's all that ecosystem. When it's clinical trials, it's the hospitals. So let's be a bit more in our speed, a little bit more focused on how we work, so that we can really catch up very quickly and remain attractive. Because I heard small molecules, advanced therapies, one doesn't negate the other, right? This is a patient taking 20 medicines, they won't be 20 advanced therapy products. So I think we really need to be very clear that we want to be first, and I know it's hard. God, I know, 27 countries, I have like 2 nationalities, so at least, so I know it's hard, but I think it's really, let's make the most of what we have and be very, very focused, and the life science strategy is like a beacon in that, and I'm really excited that we have a new one coming up. Thank you.
Thank you. Krzysztof, now about the science and the way we are connecting, the supporting through the scientific evidence policy making. What are the major issue and what kind of instruments we have to employ to bridge the science and policy making? You started your journey from a research laboratory to the policy making, also run the important funding organization for the Polish researchers. I know you have been in Brussels, also kind of understanding better how Brussels is working, I think is also important. But also you have been one of the leader of communicating science, something which Irene mentioned, that we have in one hand, how to build this push-pull mechanism, acceptance of science in the same, but also we struggled a number of problems with the misinformation, misinterpretation as well. Okay, complex, we have short answers, but please go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much for the invitation and actually also for this question. I do believe that the information now is pretty important. You have actually mentioned 2 containers that are connected, but they are different. One is how to deliver information to the people who make decisions. Second one is misinformation and communicating science. And then why I'm saying it's different is because while not delivering information to the policymakers means that the quality of decision is getting lower. So we have delays in responses, we have delays in preparing programs, we have delays in reacting to the things that are happening in the world. While misinformation is actually a tool, geopolitical, political, or business tool used these days very commonly. I will focus on the first one because I think scientific advice is something that is missing from many countries. In some countries it has been implemented. In Spain, for instance, they are doing pretty well. But looking at Poland, what I can see is that there is a deep misunderstanding of what scientific advice is. And this deep misunderstanding is from both sides. First, from the politicians who are actually very often using this kind of advice either as a bumper or to justify some decisions, but also from the scientists who are actually misunderstanding their role as people who should deliver information, and they are trying to become policymakers. And therefore, in this case, there is a clash, and the communication is going very, very poor. Recently, I had a very interesting discussion with one person who said that they were trying to get some opinion on recultivation of the ground in Kraków, and then they invited 2 scientists, and they gave 2 different opinions. And there is a lack of expertise what to do in these cases. I do believe that when we're talking about training people, it would be much better to start to train people who are making decisions to do more an approach that you have mentioned, to be more focused. And I know GRC is already delivering some training also in Poland to people who are making decisions. And I think it's a good direction to teach both sides how to communicate and how to increase the quality of decisions. I do believe that the system that is adopted in Spain, for instance, is very good, where it's based on trust, where it's based on direct communication, one-on-one communication, but other models are also there. And when we're coming to the communication of science and misinformation, there's a very different story. Irene, you have mentioned that it's a huge problem. But again, the question is whether by communicating what is science to people, we're able to change their mind, because it's not based on the thing that they don't understand, it's based on the thing that they don't want to understand, because the leaders, either political or business, they are convincing them that what is different than it is, and that's why I called it a tool. So maybe we should stand somewhere on the meta position and think how this looks, because apparently this system of educating people and trying to convince them that they are stupid or they don't have knowledge and they should learn, it's simply not working. And the COVID pandemic showed it very strongly. And but this trend is increasing already for several years. If you look at the rejections of child vaccinations, you can see that from 2012 in Poland is going up steadily without even the disturbances during the COVID. So this is one of the markers what is happening.
Thank you very much, Jakub. You are presenting kind of member states, you know, and already we have heard about the kind of misalignment between the EU level and clinical and the national level, clinical trials, the big story which already was discussed today, but many others, of course, you know. So what is your kind of issues that you believe we should urgently address? I mean, on the both sides of this process, EU and national level, and your presidency most probably also will pick up some of them.
Yep. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for the invitation and being here in lovely Kraków. Highly appreciated. I mean, some of the touch points, we already been through that. So we still see on our operational side from a university hospital, the lengthy and complex approval processes. So I think we've been through that throughout the other discussions. So perhaps if I can take it a step back, I think what we're basically addressing here is our ability to partner. And I think that was also voiced out clearly. And that's also, you could say, the DNA of the whole European construction. The question is, how do we do that? And I think towards what you're also mentioning, both for private industry, but also you're talking about societal needs and so forth, we have to be much more clear on the way of operation for doing business together. I think we can clearly see, looking ahead with the double demographic pressure, some of the bigger needs that we are facing here in a European setting. Well, we don't have the resources by ourselves looking into nor its industry, nor public entities, nor researchers. I mean, the trick, and that's probably our competitive advantage, is our ability to collaborate. I think we can all agree and adhere to that notion, but we also have to talk about the bottlenecks and the complexity in working in this partnership-driven innovation space. So recommendation also moving forward, also with some of the coming strategies coming from the European Union, is perhaps that we are more crystal clear on the challenges in collaborating. Also, what is the role of a university hospital that I'm representing here? Often you can say university hospitals be a bit reactive. So on a daily basis, I'm bombarded by companies having this or that solution. How do we open up and be more engageful in a joint conversation? Vice versa, how can we ensure the private sector is much better and much better aligned to the societal needs that we're facing, being one? So having that kind of a conversation, I think that's really key. And to me, that should be kind of integrated in the DNA also for the coming European strategies. And then moving on beyond that, the complexity, I often, and I know somebody will kick my leg during coffee, I often argue technology is the easy side of it. I know pharma is complex, medtech is complex, but if we have to understand kind of the innovation space, technology is one component, but we also have to talk about the competences, the skills of the people that we are working with. That's not often addressed. We have to talk about the regulatory framework, and it differs also depending on the country. We have to talk about the financing modalities. How do we ensure that we have the financing in place? We have to talk about culture, ethics, and so forth. So to me, when we are talking about innovation, health innovation, we have to understand the complexity and understand on both sides, or all sides, so to speak, we have a role to play, but we also have some bottlenecks. So I think taking a step back, that will probably be my advice coming kind of from the daily operational side of it, because otherwise we have some very odd conversations. And companies are getting frustrated that we're not just buying whatever stuff they're coming with, and we say, why don't you understand the complexity we're working with? So it's an odd dialogue. So we have to level the plane moving forward if we want to get into this space.
Thank you very much. You know, it's, of course, in this ecosystem, we have skills for ethic committees to do kind of quick, good assessments, especially in the technology field, which is unknown or just emerging. We have competence of digital skills. We have the competence of sergeant to use robotics or to even to work together. This is yeah, it's great. You know, this is very much connected also to Adam's point. We have 15 minutes, you know, so if there one more round of questions to you, and please with the short answers. Adam, so the connecting you to this word of the digital, because you mentioned, I think also Jakub mentioned this issue, and this is on your, I think, on your agenda as well. The European Parliament did a great job to push the European data space negotiations. We are already there. The digital compass is presented. So what is your pickup as SANT and European Parliament on this issue, on digitalization and health?
Last term in the Parliament, we had two pillars, European Green Deal transformation, legislation related to that, and digital transformation. According to Bruegel think tank, the European Union adopted 68 regulations within digital transformation. AI Act, first of all, we wanted to ensure the predictability and legal certainty, but I know that you, Andrzej, you were deeply engaged in European health data space regulation. It is crucial, and I want to underline that Polish presidency deserves applause for finalizing this work. We want health data to follow the patient safely in the European Union with freedom of movement for citizens to improve access to health services regardless where we are in the European Union. We hope that it should help in cross-border health services. We want to renew this legislation. We hope that this will help achieve deeper coordination between member states and European reference network to implement better to national health systems. A separate issue is the importance of a broader pool of data for life science research, for example, for progress in the field of rare disease, where a lack of data hampers progress. This could enable broader training and use of AI to advance research or optimize resource utilizations. I want to underline one thing, because my team recently familiarized with a very interesting thing. I mean digital twins of organisms, including human systems that allow for digital modeling of the functioning of organism. Representatives of this project are today with us. I mean, Professor Elizabeth Jerris from Catholic University Hospital in Leuven and University of Liège, who are working together with Polish Center for Computational Medicine's SANO. In the EU, we have already a digital twin of the Earth. I think, imagine how much we can get if you be able to modeling of the human body and their facility. It can also be a very good way of utilization of EU Human Brain Project, in which EU has invested around 1 billion over the last decade. So we have a lot of examples when the digitalization can optimize processes, facilitate scientists' research, and I think sometimes someone is saying that the regulation in digital area went so far, but generally I think we are the first continent where we give this regulation to increase certainty and predictability.
Thank you, and also kind of coming back to the continuing regulation, because I was one of those who was co-creating this regulation, but we have complex package of pharma, we have the new regulation in substance of human origins, which we have also the HTA already mentioned today by Nathalie, and we have European data space. And how in this concept of life science you will support the coherence of implementation, and maybe one word about public-private partnership.
Yeah, thank you. So indeed, there are a lot of new things that has come and also are in pipeline. And I think it has already been alluded to that, we have one EU, one union, but 27 countries that will implement. And it's really important with the harmonization and to help providing guidelines and to really make sure that they are implemented in the same way in the different countries. It's one of the challenges we have with many legislations in Europe right now, and that we suffer from scientific side, but I know also from the industry side. So that's something that we absolutely need to focus on to make sure that we have a good and rapid uptake and implementation of harmonized way of these new. We have a fantastic tool in terms of our partnership, IHI, the Innovative Health Initiative, where from the Commission are partnering with all the health industries, the different health sectors, and where we have started also to go into the area of regulatory sandboxes, which I think is a fantastic tool that we should explore much more how we can go forward with. Also because we know that it takes a long time to develop a new regulatory sort of piece or framework and for it to be implemented. And by the time we come to implementation, science has moved on. Something new is coming up that wasn't foreseen. So I think that we should look much more into that. Our regulatory sandboxes we already have started in IHI, and I think we should go much further on that one and see how we can explore a little bit for the future. We also do a lot of work in terms of regulatory science in general, also in view of looking at what is coming, what is there, and also what is needed for the future, which is really important. And we work very closely with our colleagues also in European medicines agencies, and also in our partnership and also in our collaborative research. We are trying to explore a lot more in terms of the regulatory science and regulatory sandboxes.
Thank you. Dana, shortly, I know the question is tough. How do you, in your assessment, able to kind of also focus on issues like health outcome, sustainability, green transition, digital transition? It's a good prescription in 1 minute. Or 2 minutes?
Okay, that's so much better.
It works or not, because companies are struggling also with this new approach.
Since forever at the EIB, we used to do both the financial and the economic analysis in support of our recommendations for financing of different projects. But nowadays it's becoming more important, and when I say the economic viability, I have in mind exactly the aspects that you mentioned. And I think recently the bank has been driven, and it's reflected directly on the life sciences by the competitiveness. Our division sits in the Innovation and Competitiveness Department, but we're looking at resilience, autonomy, and also at scale up, because that's where I think we're bleeding a lot of the companies. And in terms of the health outcomes, we look definitely into the effects in the policy areas and in general in health status improvements as such. And these are built into special financial conditions into this loan. This is why this venture debt instrument is quite special and customized for the companies to benefit it. So not that we do it from the beginning, but it has more and more of a relevance while we still need to finance financially viable projects. And this is done particularly with the support of our partnerships with the Commission, where we can get the guarantees that will allow us to finance more of these companies that have an economic impact also on top of the financial viability. And this helps not only each of these companies to potentially reach their full scale up, but it also helps create the ecosystem so venture capital is then coming and investing in this and so on. And last but not least, I just wanted to also highlight that Irene had a very nice slide, 6, 7, 8, I don't remember, with the pieces of legislation that touch on the life sciences. When you couple it with the 27 countries that have to implement it, I think that's indeed part of the issue, and that's why you have the 4 years for putting something in place. But we'll be more than happy to show you that at the EIB we can do it in 6 to 9 months, but only if we have the foundation laid by the regulation and the foundation laid by the presence of the ecosystem and the market from fundamental research to the pure commercialization. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathalie. It's the issues coming back and forth about the ambition of the EU, complex legislations. We developed negotiation, Adam said, for many years, we got results. And now implementation is coming, pharma package still under negotiation, but the ERP data space is already there. Sometimes I heard, okay, 4 years for implementation is too much, too little. So how do you see this link between the implementation of the negotiation agreement on the top level of the EU and then going 27, and what are the risks?
Excuse me for interrupting. Unfortunately, I need to be a human time alert. We are out of time, but of course you can continue.
Okay, we'll get 1 minute per person.
1.5, no problem, not at all.
I think we should all think like Dana, to be honest. That would be my answer, in the sense that in this current climate, with the attractiveness of our sector for all other regions, I'm going to be really politically correct, we need to think like an investor and think, what do I need to invest here and make those changes very visible and very fast? So all those pieces of legislation, we haven't talked about environmental legislation, that touch our sector but maybe were not created with that in mind, have a huge impact. If you're an investor and you look at the research part and the marketing part, is this going to work? God, it doesn't look like it. Maybe it will work somewhere else. That would be all I'd say. Just take a completely different perspective right now, because we have to, because of the pressure. And I know it's negative, but it's the reality right now, and make the changes very visible and tangible quickly so that we become the most attractive environment for investment and then everything that follows from investment.
Thank you. And Krzysztof, from your journey from Brussels and working here, what will be you call to the strategy? What would you like to get to help you with the national policy in the area of research?
Actually, when we're talking about funding research, the policy for research, that would be to stop with the risk aversion, because that's something that is actually killing the innovation, I believe, in Poland and in Europe. When I'm talking to venture, when I'm talking to NCBR, when I'm talking to even basic science funding agencies, the first thing is I have to convince them that there is no risk. If there is no risk, this should not be funded by public money. And that's something that we should understand, because that's not understood at all. If I have to write a project and then I have to write for 5 years, and then I know what I will be doing in 5 years from now, it means it's not a scientific project and it shouldn't be funded by public money. So the risk aversion, to stop risk aversion, to allow pivots during the project. I'm talking about different levels of project, including the startups and even further. On top of that, think about what Irene has been saying, so how to align policies in different countries with the European policy, because that is killing the gravity centers, killing the critical mass, and we don't have this critical mass needed to actually be competitive as compared to US. Over.
Thank you. And Jakob, last point for you. Very, very short. You passed the Danish, the current strategy, LifeScience strategy towards 2030. Good tips for Irene's team. What should be the learning from Danish experience?
From the Danish experience, I think there's a few. On the one hand, we have to get, for instance, Trial Nation, being quite a prominent initiative in getting private sector on board for actually conducting trials fast and easy. So I think there's some lessons learned from there. And then we had the life science strategy, and it's basically pointing on the need for building an ecosystem. So a bit the same as we are discussing here. But I think if it's of interest, going to the details, because it points out also to some of the bottlenecks. And one that might be needed pointing out is the incentive structure for actually researchers joining into innovation projects, having hospital clinicians joining into an innovation projects and so forth. So it's also a lot about the incentive structure and that we need to address here for the coming years. But I think overall terms, let's focus on this as an ecosystem. So rather than doing silo thinking, actually making sure that we understand the flow and what are the roles and responsibilities throughout this session. And I think also a call out from my side is really that we have to engage in a proactive manner. I mean, sometimes we can be a bit reacting, pointing fingers at somebody else. I think if we manage to get into the room, and perhaps as was from the opening remarks, when we meet, we change the world. I mean, that underlying principle, if we can squeeze that in as the DNA for the future strategies, I think we can move quite fast also. That's at least the lessons learned from the Danish society.
So thank you very much. I think we can close with an applause for my panel, and thank you.
Yes,
Great.
of course. Thank you. Thank you for all panelists. They are still here.